Hello everybody, my name is Tara. Welcome back to the Three Bookshelves and welcome to Middle Grade March. Now you may be wondering, what is Middle Grade March? Well, the answer is very simple. Middle Grade March is a readathon in which participants are reading middle grade novels throughout the month of March. It's being hosted by Katie at Life Between Words and Krista at BooksWithJams. I'll link both of them down in the doobly-doo. You also might be wondering why I am doing Middle Grade March when I have a lot of adult books to read and not a lot of time to read them in. That answer is a little more complicated. When I picked up the first Babysitters Club book to show in my newbie tag video, I thought, why don't I just read it? So I read it. It took me a couple of hours and I loved it. I really did. And I thought I want to read more Babysitters Club books. Not all of them, that would be a little crazy, but I thought it would be great to read the introductory books for all 5 original characters. And then I heard about Middle Grade March and I thought, this is perfect timing. Now I have an excuse and a reason to read these middle grade novels that would be taking away time from all the other books that I need to read. Of course, then I also had to pick a few other books to read for Middle Grade March as well. I'm going to be going over those with you today. Katie and Krista came up with 5 challenges for the readathon. It's totally optional, but great starting point if you're not that familiar with middle grade novels and you don't know where to start. Challenge number 1 is to read an award-winning book, and for that I'll be reading A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine, which won the Newbery Medal in 1963. In A Wrinkle in Time, Meg Murray's father mysteriously disappears while experimenting with time travel, and Meg, along with her friend Calvin and her brother Charles Wallace, must embark on a grand adventure through space and time to rescue him. Now, I love a good time travel story, so I have no idea why I never read this book growing up, but I am very excited to read it now, especially with the movie coming out in a few days. It looks really awesome, so I am looking forward to reading the book in March and seeing the movie later on this year. And speaking of movies, challenge number 2 is to read a book-to-movie adaptation. For that, I'll be reading The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. In this book, 4 young children find a portal in an old wardrobe that leads to a magical land called Narnia, which they have to save from the tyranny of the White Witch. Confession time, I've never read a single Chronicles of Narnia book, which seemed like heresy for someone who claims to have been a reader her entire life, so it is high time I finally check out The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Also, I have had this book for years and I never picked it up, so it is one more book I can scratch off my TBR shelf, so bonus points for that. I have seen the film adaptation of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so I am going into this book fully spoiled. Not that it would have been very surprising anyway. It's a hero's journey and the good guy always wins. Unless it's written by George R. R. Martin, but George R. R. Martin doesn't write children's books. That would be terrifying. Challenge number 3 is to read a children's classic, and for that I will be reading James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. In this story, James is a young orphan who lives with his cruel and abusive aunts until he accidentally magics a peach to the size of a house, along with a bunch of creepy crawlies that live inside of it. Okay, seriously, what is it about orphans living with abusive relatives and discovering magic? James and the Giant Peach was one of my favorite books growing up, but I honestly don't remember much of it beyond the giant peach and the giant bugs. But this is definitely a book I will be reading to my son in a few years, so I am looking forward to reading it myself this month. Challenge number 4 is to read a childhood favorite, and for that challenge I'll be reading some Babysitters Club books. The Babysitters Club series follows a group of young girlfriends who start a local babysitting service, through which they have all sorts of fun and hijinks. As I've mentioned before, I absolutely lived for the Babysitters Club books when I was growing up, and I had so much fun reading Christie's Great Idea in January. Unfortunately, my library only had books 2 and 4 at the moment, Claudia and the Phantom Phone Calls and Marion Saves the Day, but I'm hoping to get my hands on book 2, The Truth About Stacey, and book 5, Dawn and the Impossible 3, so that I can read all of their introductory stories. And challenge number 5 is to read a diverse book. Now, I couldn't think of any diverse middle grade novels off the top of my head, so I took to the internets and found Refugee by Alan Gratz. I don't have my hands on this book yet, I'll have to track it down. In Refugee, 3 very different kids have one common mission: to escape. Joseph is a Jewish boy in 1930s Nazi Germany, Isabel is a Cuban girl in 1994, and Mahmoud is a Syrian in 2015. All 3 are embarking on harrowing journeys in search of refuge, and even though they are separated by distance and decades, their stories will all be connected in the end. This book immediately grabbed my attention because it sounds quite a bit like one of my favorite books, Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, in that the characters are from different points of history, yet somehow their stories are connected. So I can't wait to see how that pans out in Refugee. This is also a highly relevant read for 2018, not only because it deals with the current Syrian refugee crisis, but because Joseph's story should serve as a reminder of how far discrimination and and segregation can go if we let it. So that is my TBR for middle grade March. I will post a separate wrap-up at the end of the month to let you know how I did and what I thought of those books. If you are joining into middle grade March, I'd love to know what you're going to be reading this month, and I'd also love to know what your favorite book was when you were growing up. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you can keep up with all my reading adventures this March and beyond. And until next time, happy reading, everybody. Bye-bye.